joined today for our weekly satsang program where we are discussing the 18th chapter now of the Bhagavad Gita. We have coming towards the conclusion of the 18th chapter. So we'll just read the verses once more. Today we are discussing 5 verses. Just the translations we'll go through again. Text 56 to 60. So text 56. Though engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee under my protection reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. Text 57. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. Text 58. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. Text 59. If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. By your nature, you will have to be engaged in warfare. Text 60. Under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction. But compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. Hare Krishna. So, thank you everybody for joining in today's discussion on the Bhagavad Gita. We are, as I said, coming towards the end of the Bhagavad Gita now, last couple of verses. And these are very powerful verses. In this section of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is actually describing, the progressive journey of the soul through karma and jnana to realization of the super soul. And from verse 56, which is today's verse, today's next 5 verses, from verse 56 all the way up to 66, he states the philosophical conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. See, Bhagavad Gita has covered many topics. Last time when we met, it was I think around October 22nd or so. Around that time, I don't know, October 22nd, 24th, almost a month back. I think it was 24th, yeah, 24th of October. So a month back we met. So that time when we met, we were saying that it's been a long journey. It's been a 10-year journey, and in 10 years, a lot of discussion has happened in the Bhagavad Gita. We have discussed many verses, many themes. There are themes of karma, there are themes of jnana, themes of ashtanga, themes of how to act in this material world, how to deal with people, how to understand natures of people, how to understand the nature of this material world, the modes of material nature, how to understand Krishna, how to see him in everything. So many different topics have been discussed. So many features of philosophy have been covered as we have gone through this beautiful journey of the Bhagavad Gita. However, the philosophical conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. So, itna sab sunne ke baad, what is my take-home message? Right? Here is where the take-home message is being given by Krishna. He states that the philosophical conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is bhakti, in which the living entity surrenders, not only realizes the super soul, but also surrenders to him, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So last time, we discussed a very important verse, 18.55, in which the translation goes like this: that one can understand me as I am, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yaman yachasmi sastatvatah. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. So this is what we discussed last time, where Krishna explains that one can attain him and the spiritual kingdom only through the process of bhakti, through the process of karma, through the process of jnana, through the process of ashtanga yoga. If at all somebody is able to follow any of these processes, it is not possible to directly attain Krishna. It is not possible to attain his spiritual kingdom. Only by the process of bhakti this is possible. So in this section, actually now Krishna is further elaborating on bhakti. He says that one must act in the process in devotion, following Krishna's direction. And if one does not, then undoubtedly one will act in illusion under the influence of Maya. So let us discuss. These are fairly strong words that Krishna is using. See, till now Krishna has been giving different, different instructions to Arjuna for him to understand. Arjuna asks certain questions and Krishna responds in return. But now, in this last part, now Krishna is giving some very specific things he's saying to ensure that people understand. He said that I can be understood only through bhakti. And then, after having said that I can be attained and my spiritual kingdom can be attained only through bhakti, then there may be a doubt in someone's mind that, Are, if I take to bhakti, will everything be all right? So then in verse 56, he's giving this beautiful assurance. He says, though engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee under my protection reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. So he starts with a beautiful assurance. So Krishna is saying that the pure devotee of his pure devotee. What is the meaning of pure devotee? Pure devotee means one who is engaged in serving the Lord, in fulfilling the Lord's directions without any selfish motive. Ahaituki. He has no hetu. He has no individual motivation. ये करने से मेरा भला होगा, मेरे परिवार का भला होगा, मेरे congregation का भला होगा, मेरे मंदिर का भला होगा, मेरा मेरा business का भला होगा. I will do well, my business will do well, my family will do well. No, nothing. He has no personal motivation whatsoever in performing this devotional service. He is doing it only as means to please the Lord. His only focus is how can I please Krishna through my activities, right? So this is a pure devotee. But then one may say, oh, I am pure devotee sometime, not all the time. But pure devotee is a devotee who is pure all the time. His consciousness is immersed in Krishna all the time. He's working for Krishna all the time. He is not ahaituki for some time and hetuki for other times. He has ahaituki at all times. He wants to serve Krishna with his body, mind, and soul at all times. Ahaituki apratihata. So this is what is a pure devotee. So Krishna says that a person who is like this engaged in pure devotional service, even if they may be doing all kinds of activities. Externally, you may see, oh, this person is a businessman. This person is working in a company like HPCL or Tata Power or BPCL or wherever else, right? Or they may be a father, they may be a son, they may be acting as a brother, a neighbor of somebody. They may be doing so many different activities. If they are doing these activities under the direction of the Lord or the direction of his pure devotee, Lord's pure devotee, then he is assured of three things. Three things are assured to the person who is acting on the pure devotional platform. What are those? In this verse, Krishna says three things. First, he or she is assured of Krishna's protection. So you may say, I'll just list them out first and then we will discuss. He is assured of Krishna's protection. So in this material world, you may have protection of many people, right? You may have protection of your father, of your husband, your children, your wife, your your bank balance, your insurance, your so many things you may feel protect you, but nothing can protect you from the jaws of death. Nothing. If coronavirus has chosen you, you are next. Yamaraj comes for you, nothing can protect you. All these things that one may have tremendous bank balance, tremendous intelligence, large number of Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn followers. One may have many servants. One may have a big car. One may have you know all opulences, all beauty, wealth, fame, strength, knowledge, and renunciation. May have everything, but when death comes, doesn't help. None of these things will help. In fact, they will make your death more painful. because you're attached to these things. More we have beauty, more we have wealth, more we have fame, we are attached to these things. We want these things, and if they're being snatched away from us by cruel death, it's a very painful experience. Therefore, only one thing can protect us at the time of death: the degree that we have surrendered to Krishna. So Krishna is assuring us of his protection. His protection, he says, not only at the time of death, even when you're alive, he will carry what you have, and provide what you lack. He will give you what is needed by you to make progress on the path of devotional service. Sometimes that may mean he may give you all opulence. He may give you wealth. He may give you the ability to speak. He may give you the ability to do business, the ability to preach to people, the ability to do fantastic kirtan. Just now there was a beautiful kirtan, by His Grace Sachinandan Prabhu. He may give you ability to listen to katha and memorize everything. He may give you so many things, right? The Lord is capable of giving anything. But remember that all these things that we have, they're going to be taken away at the time of death. But Krishna, his protection is such that he will give you what you need at that point of time, whether you're alive or dying. At that point of time, what you need in order to continue to progress in bhakti, he will give you those experiences. He will create those circumstances for you. He will give you the strength to face those circumstances. This is Krishna's protection. So in case of in case of Parikshit Maharaj, right, the hero of the Shrimad Bhagavatam, of course, the hero of Shrimad Bhagavatam is the Supreme Lord Krishna. But let's say the central character, one of the central characters of Shrimad Bhagavatam, around whom the whole Bhagavatam was spoken. So Parikshit Maharaj, when he was in the womb of his mother Uttara, at that time, Ashwatthama, he let go of a Brahmastra to kill the only living. He had already killed all the five sons of the Pandavas, and the only living, survivor of the Pandavas' generation, the one who would carry the generation forward, was the son of Abhimanyu, who was in the womb of Uttara, Parikshit. Now, Ashwatthama was so nasty. He knew this, so he shot a Brahmastra at Uttara to kill that last. There was no need for a Brahmastra. He could have just shot an arrow, but he wanted to make deadly sure that there's no way that child will survive. He shot a Brahmastra, and then Krishna himself came physically. Uttara came to Lord Krishna and she started crying, "Hey Krishna Mahabahu, please save me, please save this, this." He said, I don't mind dying. I don't have any desire to live, nothing. I have no, attachment to this body. But this child in my womb is the sole survivor, the sole inheritor of the legacy of the Pandavas. Please save him. So Krishna himself went into her womb. He protected Parikshit Maharaj, and Parikshit Maharaj lived, took darshan of Supreme Lord Krishna, and then came out. So in this situation, Krishna gave him physical protection. And then when he was cursed to die in 7 days by Shringi, the son of Shamik Rishi, Shringi, cursed Parikshit Maharaj to die in 7 days because he committed a mistake. He committed an offense at the feet of Shamik Rishi. So Shringi was an immature Brahmana boy. So he just went ahead and cursed Parikshit that he should die in 7 days by the bite of a serpent, Takshaka. Now, when he got this curse, what is the protection that Krishna gave him? At that time, Krishna could have come and he could have told that Shringi that, hey, chup ho ja, mera aadmi hai, isko tum kuch nahi kar sakte, you cannot curse him to die. Parikshit Maharaj himself could have also used what powers he had to counteract the curse. Parikshit didn't do that. Lord Krishna also didn't do that. He allowed him to die in 7 days. But what was the protection that Krishna gave? Krishna protected his eternal soul. Krishna protected his bhakti. How did he do that? He inspired him to go to the bank of Ganges. On the bank of Ganges, All the sages and all the great rishis from all over the universe, they just accumulated there because they heard that Parikshit Maharaj has come there, to leave his body in 7 days. And then Sukdev Goswami, the son of Srila Vyasadeva, he came to that spot and he was unanimously selected to speak to Parikshit Maharaj the knowledge of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which answers this basic question: what is the duty of a person, that is, who is about to die? What is a person supposed to do when he's about to die? What are the main duties of a person who is a human being? What should one do? What is the greatest goal of life? Answers to the most important questions of life were given by Shukdev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj in those 7 days. So, one may say, which protection is greater? Was the protection that Krishna gave to him in his womb physical protection? Was that important? Yes, it was important, no doubt. Otherwise, Parikshit Maharaj would not even survive. But the protection he gave to him at the end of his life, which protected his eternal soul, kept him in bhakti and brought him back to Godhead. That is Krishna's protection. So if a person is a sincere, pure devotee, he is assured of Krishna's protection. Second thing is assured of, Krishna says, is his grace, the mercy of the Lord. The Lord is infinitely merciful. We may feel कि अरे यार मेरे को इसका कोई experience नहीं है. I don't have any experience of mercy of the Lord. Maybe Prabhuji, maybe you have got. I have not got mercy. No, we have. We have all knowingly or unknowingly been recipients of the unlimited mercy of Shri Krishna. How is that possible? Because, you know, we are all living bang in the middle of Kali Yuga. Bang in the middle of Kali Yuga. This Kali Yuga is now, really picking up momentum. We can see it. Intelligent person who just looks around can immediately observe what is happening in the world today, right? Because there is so much sinful activity, there is so much selfishness. The leaders of society are all out, just focused on somehow or the other making money, somehow or the other, just winning the next election. Corruption, sinful activity, everything is going on in full rate mein chal raha hai Kali Yuga mein. We're in the middle of Kali Yuga. Amidst all this Kali Yuga, amidst all the sinful activity, amidst all the bad habits that we have inculcated in ourselves for decades since we are born. I'm 47 years old, and like 4.5, 5 decades are over, right? and and in all this time, so many bad habits inculcated, so much sinful activity we have done. We have eaten all wrong things, done all wrong things, so much garbad we have done. Despite that, still the Lord was merciful enough to connect us to a devotee. He connected us to a devotee. He ensured that somehow we stay in bhakti, because there are so many temptations that take us away from bhakti. एक ही काफी है, बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत नहीं है. एक temptation काफी है to take you miles away from bhakti, so far away that you never even turn and look back. But despite all the bad habits we had, despite all the conditioning desires that we continue to have, we continue to make mistakes, still he tolerates everything and he keeps us in the association of devotees. Somehow he keeps us connected with devotees, he keeps us connected with the process of bhakti. This is the grace of the Lord. Grace marks जिसे कहते हैं कि आप परीक्षा में उत्तीर्ण नहीं हुए हो, लेकिन फिर भी आपको 5वीं से 6ठी कक्षा में भेजा जा रहा है. यू बीइंग प्रमोटेड फ्रॉम 5th स्टैंडर्ड टू 6th स्टैंडर्ड, सिंपली बिकॉज अरे लॉर्ड फेल्ट, चल यार बहुत स्ट्रगल किया बच्चे ने, जा चल तू भी क्या याद करेगा, गो इन 6th स्टैंडर्ड. लाइक द government has created the new educational system, right? I mean, it's been there for a while now, that till 8th standard no marks are given. No marks, only grades. And सबको पास किया जाता है, सबको mercifully अगले क्लास में भेजा जाता है, whether they are ready for it or not, whether they have the qualifications or not, they are being sent to the 8th standard. That's the next standard. So in the same way, the Lord also, he is giving us tests from time to time. He keeps testing our sincerity, keeps seeing how sincere we are, whether we are really committed to the process of bhakti. Our Guru has given us so many instructions, are we really following? Our God brothers keep telling us from time to time, keep inspiring us. Are we following their instructions, or are we doing our own thing? So these tests keep coming to us from time to time. How many of these tests are we really passing? If we really sincerely ask ourselves, probably the answer will be maybe not even 30-40% of the time we're really passing these tests, these flying colors. Most of the time we are struggling. We are not even able to follow the basic instructions that our Guru has given us. Still, the Lord has very mercifully kept us here. So the grace of the Lord, the mercy of the Lord is available to us even now while we are speaking. We are very, very grateful. We have to be very, very grateful on how fortunate we are that we somehow, such sinful products of the Kali Yuga, somehow we got connected to Krishna consciousness, and somehow we are still here. अभी भी कंठी माला है, अभी भी तिलक पहने हैं, अभी भी हाथ में जप माला है, जपा कर रहे हैं. कैसे कर रहे हैं? Well, leaves lot to be desired, but कर रहे हैं. We have to be so grateful. This cannot happen without the mercy of Krishna, without the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityanand Prabhu. Because of their mercy, they are still tolerating us. And the third thing is assured, a pure devotee is assured. We are not pure devotees, but still Krishna is giving us. He's still giving us protection. He's still giving us his grace. And the third thing he assures is going back to Godhead. So while you are here in this material world, he is assuring you of protection. When you are faced with all kinds of tests, he is assuring you of his grace and his mercy, and he is also assuring you that you will go back to Godhead. So what a wonderful assurance the Supreme Lord is giving us. Now going back to Godhead, there are various extremes. If you look at our scriptures, we look at the history of our ISKCON movement or Gaudiya Vaishnava movement, there are many, many kinds of extreme examples, different types of examples. I had couple of maybe years back when we were discussing ninth chapter. That time I had told the story of the salted bread. These are devotees in Russia. The initial years in Russia, Russia was a communist country like what China is today, and any kind of religious activity was not tolerated, and it was all underground. ISKCON was being led by a few brave devotees, doing everything underground. The Bhagavad Gita was printed underground, it was distributed underground. They would make one copy, everyone would read it, pass it to the next person, read it, pass it to the next person. So it was like desperate scenes, and somehow the KGB caught some of these people, and they tortured them, and they put them in concentration camps and all kinds of difficulties. So one particular devotee, Sarva Bhavana Prabhu, he actually wrote a book called The Salted Bread, which is an account of the challenges that he and his friend Sako, his name was Gago and his friend's name was Sako. Initiated names were Sarva Bhavana Prabhu and Sachisuta Prabhu. Sachisuta Prabhu. So the Sachisuta Prabhu, they were put in jail. In jail, horrible cold weather. They didn't have proper clothes. The only food that they were given was salted bread. No vegetables, no nothing, no milk, nothing. Just water and salted bread. Now imagine they lived through this tremendous torture. They went through all kinds of difficulty, and this it is described that they would take that bread, some of those breads, they would dry it. They would dry that bread, pieces of it, break it, and make beads out of it. And with those beads, they were chanting. Matlab, even in jail, they did not give up Krishna consciousness. This is apratihata, ahaituki apratihata, pure devotees. So tremendous difficulty. Finally, this Sachisut Prabhu was so sick that he was transferred to a hospital. I think he had tuberculosis something. And when he was in hospital, he was going through a lot of suffering. He was in great pain because of his disease. And in his room there was one more person. So that person told the story of Sachisut Prabhu, and that person, he says that I was an atheist. I didn't believe in God. But seeing Sachisut Prabhu, seeing his sincere devotion every day, he would get up in the morning, Despite his poor health, he would chant his 16 rounds very sincerely, and every day he would be always smiling, very peaceful. Though he was in horrible health, he was suffering, still he was always very peaceful. He would preach to this person, he would tell him about Krishna consciousness, and various things he would do. Then one particular day, he woke up in the morning, Sachisut Prabhu, and he told his roommate, "Can you please do me a favor?" He said, "What?" "Can you please shave my head?" So he told that person to shave his head completely. He said, "Just leave a small tuft of hair, at the back, like a shikha. You just keep a small tuft of hair. Otherwise, clean shave my head." So his room partner, he clean shaved him completely, clean headed, shaved his hair off. And then Sachisud Prabhu, he went and he took a bath. He took a bath. After he took a bath, he took toothpaste. And with toothpaste, he applied tilak on 12 parts of his body. He took a bed sheet. He wore that bed sheet around him like a dhoti, and he sat on his bed in cross-legged position with a beautiful smile on his face, and he started chanting. So now this room partner, he went out for some time, and he saw that Sachisutta was smiling, so he thought maybe he's feeling better today. Otherwise, he was very weak by that time. So when he came back, he saw that Sachisutta was still sitting in that same position with a smile on his face. So he called him and he tried to speak to him, but Sachisutta was not responding. So after few moments, he touched him and he realized that Sachisutta has left his body. So he was so influenced by this whole event. He writes about it. He says that this person, despite all suffering, he never gave up Krishna consciousness, and he left. I mean, his friend, this Gago or Sarva Bhamana, he writes about this whole incident in the book Salted Bread. That what is this determination of a pure devotee? Even though he was in a hospital, he was condemned to die, he was going to die. Still, he did not give up the shelter of Krishna. He did not, for a moment, he did not stop chanting. And when he realized that he's going to leave his body, he immediately, came into the Vesh Bhusha of a Vaishnav, shaved his head, put tilak, wear a dhoti, sat in cross-legged position, started chanting, and gave up his body. For such a person, right? For such a person, what do you think Krishna is going to do? What do you think the Supreme Lord, how indebted Krishna becomes when someone is so determined in devotional life? That I will give up my life, but I will not give up your shelter, O Supreme Lord. What devotion, what bhakti this is. And then there is the other extreme that is mentioned in the Shrimad Bhagavatam, the story of Ajamil in the 6th canto. Ajamil was a Brahmana. He was he was a Brahmana who was very sincerely performing his devotional life. He was assisting his father in whatever pujas they were doing. He would read the scriptures scrutinizingly. He was studying. He was a bit of a jnani, so he was studying scriptures also scrutinizingly. Then one day his father told him, go to the forest to collect some sticks, for the yagya. So please go to the forest. So when he went to the forest, there he saw, he actually saw a scene. He saw that there was one a prostitute there and one Shudra. The Shudra was embracing that prostitute, and very lustfully, they were having relations there. So when this sight came before Ajamil, now, Ajamil was a pure person. He was a Brahmana. He tried at that moment to remember the knowledge of the scriptures that he had read, that one must avoid the association of a woman, one must not become lusty. He tried to apply his knowledge. It was of no use, because once he went away from that scene also, that image kept repeating in his mind, and he became so enamored by the whole thing that he actually went and sought out that prostitute. He brought her home as a servant. And then after his father died, he kicked out his wife and he started living with this prostitute. And with this prostitute, he had 9 or 10 children, right? One after the other. And it is mentioned in the Bhagavatam at the age of 88. He was 88 years old. That's when he had his last child. And because it is mentioned that because when he was a devotee, not devotee, but when he was a young Brahmana boy, when he was following the instructions of his father. That time he was worshipping the Narayan Shila, and he was, chanting mantras of Lord Narayan. Therefore, Lord Narayan only inspired him to name his son, his last son, as Narayan. Now, anyone who has a young child, even grandparents are very, very attached to sometimes their grandchildren. They see their small grandchildren, they feel very happy to play with them, to laugh and talk with them. So he had a very young child, the age of 88, he had a young child who was talking in that Totla language. So very enamored, very attracted to that child. He would keep calling him Narayan, 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 come here, Narayan, do this, Narayan, eat this, Narayan, drink this. Constantly he was chanting the names of Lord Narayan. So it is described in Srimad Bhagavatam that the point where he named his child Narayan, just by naming his child Narayan, already his sinful activities were washed away. And then he was keeping on chanting Narayan. So even what sinful activities he was continuing to perform, they were getting washed away. And because of his chanting Narayan, because of his naming his son Narayan, at the time of death, suddenly death came before him. The Yamadutas came before him, and when the Yamadutas came, at that time he, out of great fear, out of great fear, he called out the name of Narayan. Now he was not calling, even when he called his son Narayan, he was not calling Lord Vishnu. He was calling his son. Even at this point of time, when he saw the Yamadutas, he called Narayan his son, because he was very attached. So it is described as a time of death. We generally call out or remember that which is dearest to us. And who is dearest to us? The one whom we have associated with or thought of for a majority of our life. Right? For a long portion, he had been thinking of his son, talking about his son. So therefore, he called Narayan. Moment he called Narayan, Yamadutas had come and they were about to snatch out the soul from the body of Ajamil. At that time, the Vaikuntha, Lord Narayan's associates, they came and they argued with the Yamadutas and told him that you cannot take this person because he has chanted the name of Lord Narayan. And finally, the Yamadutas, they go away, and then he gets a second chance. This whole pastime is beautifully described in a small book of Srila Prabhupada called A Second Chance. It's called Second Chance, right? Yeah, Second Chance. So a beautiful book based on this whole pastime. I would recommend that all of you, if you have the opportunity, please read this beautiful book or read this pastime from the Srimad Bhagavatam of Ajamil. So he then got a second chance. He went back to devotional life and then finally left his body thinking of the Supreme Lord and went back to Godhead. So see the two different extremes, right? One extreme is a person who was absolutely focused on devotional life, even at the threat of death, was not willing to give up bhakti, even incarcerated in a prison cell where there was no food, no light, no water, nothing, everything was miserable. In such a place, he did not give up bhakti. When he was about to leave his life, he dressed up as a devotee and gave up his body. This is one extreme. Other extreme is a person who's been performing sinful activities the entire life, just named his son Narayan. That's it, or kuch bhi nahi kiya. He also went back to God. So the Supreme Lord is so illogically merciful. कोई logic नहीं है उसका. Sometimes, we see stories in the Bhagavatam that encourage us to take shelter of the holy name. That if someone like Ajamil, who unknowingly chanted the name of Narayan at the time of death, he was protected from the wrath of the Yamadutas, then what to speak of those who sincerely, all their lives, making as much effort as is possible, raise their arms and sincerely chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So much more merciful the Lord will be towards such people. So we should have faith. Have faith that the Lord is giving this wonderful assurance in this verse number 56. Three assurances. One, he will protect us. Second, he will be merciful towards us. And third, he will take us back to Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport very beautifully Such nice words Prabhupada has used in these purports 56, 57. I would strongly recommend everyone should read these purports 56, 57, 58 also. Very beautiful words Srila Prabhupada has used, especially in 56 and 57. He says, the Lord is very, very kind to a devotee who is 100% engaged in activities under the Lord's direction. So he's very kind. And he says, in spite of all difficulties, such a devotee is placed in Krishna Loka. It is guaranteed, Srila Prabhupada says. If a devotee is sincere in his devotional life, 100% engaged in activities under the Lord's directions, then he will be surely placed in Vaikuntha. He will be placed in Krishna Loka. According to what desire he has, he will be placed there. There are many beautiful stories in Srimad Bhagavatam which show us the protection of the Lord which comes under any circumstances. We see this protection given to Ambarish Maharaj. We see the protection given to Chitraketu. We see the protection given to Vritrasura, who Chitraketu was cursed to become a demon by Mother Parvati. So Chitraketu, he had received instructions from Narad Muni, and he had become a pure devotee. He was all the time engaged in worshipping Lord Shankarshan in his mind. He was constantly engaged in glorifying and worshipping Lord Shankarshan. One day he was flying in his plane, in his airplane, and he saw downstairs. He saw Lord Shiva. He was instructing his disciples and various sadhus on the principles of renunciation while Mother Parvati was seated in his lap. So Chitraketu, he found this little bit, amazing and amusing at the same time. He said, only Lord Shiva can do this. That person like Lord Shiva, he can speak of renunciation while having his wife sitting on his lap because he stands. So he was amused by the thing. The Mother Parvati saw this and she was offended. She said, Are, you don't realize the greatness of Lord Shiva? And she cursed him. You're thinking like a demon, you should become a demon. So he became the demon Vritrasura. And this Vritrasura was killed by Indra. It is described in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam that Vritrasura was killed by Indra. And when he was killed by Indra, using the Vajra, that Vajra was created from the bones of the Rishi. Beautiful description of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, actually, the story of Vritrasura comes before the story of, immediately after Ajamil's story, is Vritrasura's story. And after Vritrasura's story, then Chitraketu's story comes. How come? So, Vritrasura, it is described that is a great demon. And when he was attacked by Indra, he was preaching to Indra. Indra tried to kill him. Indra was told that you use this thunderbolt, it will help you to kill Vritrasura. He used the thunderbolt, nothing happened. Vritrasura caught the thunderbolt and threw it back at him. So Indra was he was devastated, demoralized. He said, Kya ye? Lord Vishnu has said that using this, thunderbolt, this Vajra Asan, with this Vajra, you will be able to kill, but I'm not able to kill. So very devastated by the whole thing, demoralized. So at that time, he starts preaching pure devotional service. Who? Vritrasur. He preaches to Indra that you do your duty. These are the instructions of the Supreme Lord Vishnu has said. They cannot go wrong. You do your duty. You try to kill me. I will surely die by this weapon. I'm waiting to give up my body so that I can again go into the association of the Supreme Lord. So when Parikshit Maharaj is hearing Shrimad Bhagavatam, when he hears this, he becomes a little, hey, hold on. How is this possible? He's a demon. How he is preaching pure Bhagavad philosophy over here? How is this possible? That time, then Sukdev Goswami explains to him that he was Chitraketu in his previous life and he was cursed by Mother Parvati to become a demon. So, beautiful instances we see that the Supreme Lord, he ensures that a person, he may go through some ups and downs. थोड़ा ऊपर नीचे हो सकता है and होगा. It's not that a devotee's life is going to be smooth sailing. There will be difficulties. Pure devotees like Chitraketu Maharaj, one small mistake and that's it. He became a demon. And probably how many years, God knows, right? One birth we take, even if you're born as a human being, we may live for 50, 60, 70 years. Again, going through the process of education, again, going through the process of completing a degree, postgraduate degree, getting a job, finding an appropriate husband or wife, getting children, parenting them, bringing them up, unko mehnat se bada karo, all that hard work, creating a corpus for your retirement, then providing for day-to-day expenses, providing for children's education, providing for marriage of your children, providing for your retirement. अरे कितना मेहनत करोगे, इतना सब मेहनत करके पुनरपि जननम पुनरपि मननम, again we are born, right? But the Supreme Lord, if one is a devotee, engaged 100% under the Lord's directions, then he arranges everything. Even though there may be difficulties, as Prabhupada says, in spite of all difficulties, he is placed in Krishna Loka. We see in the life of Tukaram Maharaj. Tukaram Maharaj had great difficulty. Though he was a pure devotee of Lord Vitthal, he never had any nice, smooth life. He was very poor, materially very poor. And he was not materially very practical also. So even what wealth he got, he would give it away. He was like that. So despite all difficulties, despite all challenges, still at the end of his life, he went back to Godhead in the self same body. So this is a beautiful of the words used by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord is very, very kind to a devotee who is 100% engaged in activities under the Lord's directions. So then in verse 57, Krishna says, in all activities. Now he has just said, though engaged in all kinds of activities. So what are all kinds of activities? As we said, as a husband, as a wife, as a son, as a daughter, as a grandson, grandfather, as a worker, as an employee, as a manager, as an MD, as a CEO, as a director, as a whatever you are, right? In all activities, just depend upon me and work under my protection. In such devotional service, be conscious of me. This is what Krishna is saying. And Srila Prabhupada has given a beautiful purport. Each statement in that purport is like nectar. So I am just kind of staying true to the words used by Srila Prabhupada. I'm not trying to put in too much of my own words because the purport is very beautiful. We should cover the points that Prabhupada has covered. So Krishna is saying, depend on me and work under my protection. In such bhakti, be fully conscious of me. So Srila Prabhupada is saying, very beautiful. I'll just go to that purport. Just give me a second. Yeah. So he says, when one acts in Krishna consciousness, he does not act as the master of the world. So what is the condition? Okay, what is the condition of 99.99% of the people in this world? We all are trying to be masters. We are all trying to be masters of whatever small area we have under our control. मेरे पास ये इतना इलाका है, ये अपुन का इलाका है, ये इलाके में अपुन राजा. I am the king of this ilaka. What is that ilaka? That ilaka could be, 501 Shlok 89 oblique Sindhi Society, Chembur, Mumbai 471. Bus. Or it could be a small cubicle in some, some nice corner, some corner of some HPCL or BPCL or Tata Power or any other corporate office, right? So we feel that we are the kings, we are the masters. So therefore, Prabhupada is saying, when one acts in Krishna consciousness, he does not act as the master of the world. One immediately understands, Baba, I am not the master, I am the servant. Dasosmi. Gopi Bhartur Padakamalayur, Das Dasanudas. If there's any doubt in your mind, I'm not really servant. No, servant no Baba. We are really servant of servant of servant. Das Dasanudas. तीन लेवल छोड़ के दास हो आप. You are a servant of your. Now imagine if you have a servant, that servant employs a servant, and that servant employs another servant. That is our condition, or that is the consciousness we have to have. Don't try to be a master in this world, because when we try to be a master, we remain in this material world. When we become servant of Krishna, when we have that consciousness that I am not the master, I am a servant, right? Then, then and then only we can get out of this material world. We came in this material world because we wanted to be a master, because we wanted to enjoy separately, because we wanted to be the enjoyer, the master, the controller, the proprietor. सब हमको बनना है, हमको किसी और को नहीं देना है ये पोजीशन. ये मेरा पोजीशन है, ये घर में मैं जो बोलता हूँ वही सही. Everyone else just listen to what I'm saying, because I am the master of this house. I pay your fees, I pay your bills. I am the master. तो ये जो ईगो है ना हमारा, ये ईगो मास्टर कॉन्शियसनेस है, right? But Prabhupada is saying, just like a servant, one should act fully under the directions of the Supreme Lord. What beautiful words. He says, don't act like a master, just act like a servant, right? Just act like a servant, fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. So what does the servant do? So there are 3-4 points that Srila Prabhupada has given that help us to understand what is the meaning of working like a servant under the directions of Supreme Lord, right? So this is a practical understanding of Krishna's instructions. What he has just spoken to Arjuna, when he speaks about this in verse 56, right? Though engaged in all kinds of active, pure devotee under my protection, reaches eternal, imperishable, abode by my grace. In all activities, just depend upon me and work under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. So how do we get this? Prabhupada is saying, not by being master, but by being servant, right? So what is the characteristics of a servant of the Lord? भगवान का जो दास है उसके क्या विशेष characteristics हैं? What are they? How do you recognize? First point, no individual independence. ओए मैं independent है, मेरे को मैं किसी का सुनता नहीं. There are a lot of people who think like that, talk like that. I mean, when we say it like this, it may sound funny, it may sound ridiculous. अरे ऐसे कौन बात करता है? But even if you may not say it in so many words, we are thinking like that. Oh, he may say so many things. I will do my thing. You may tell us to follow 4 regulative principles. I'll follow 3. चौथा मैं नहीं करेगा. Practical नहीं, right? The moment we want to do something which is against the instructions of the scriptures, against the instructions of Guru, that is called individual independence. At your individual level, my independent who? I have freedom of speech, I have freedom of action, I have freedom of choice. The moment we think like this, who are we? We are trying to be Swarat. We are trying to be independent. Swarajya. Swaraj is my birthright. I am free. I can speak anything, do anything. I'm not answerable to anybody. Isn't that what we all call independence? This is precisely what we have to give up. We have to go from individual dependence to complete dependence on the Supreme Lord. We have to do our activities. We have to put our efforts. But a servant is not independent of the master. वो servant का मतलब ही वो है कि he is dependent on the master. If the master gracefully gives him a salary, then he takes it and he continues to serve the master. He doesn't say, "Arey, I got salary, now I'm good, all good, ho gaya mera." No, he continues to serve the master. And a good servant acts on the order of the master. A good servant doesn't just do andhadhund. अच्छा आज क्या करूं? चल यार आज थोड़ा मूड हो रहा है, आज चल थोड़ा खाना बनाते. आज मूड नहीं हो रहा है, आज यार झाड़ू नहीं करते. No, a servant doesn't do that. A servant acts on the orders of the master. So a devotee is one, a pure devotee is one who shows no individual independence. He remains dependent on the Lord. He doesn't believe in freedom of speech. मैं कुछ भी बोल सकता हूँ. नहीं, वो कुछ भी नहीं बोलता है. He tries to control his speech. He tries to speak about Krishna. He tries to avoid using foul language. He tries to avoid speaking prajalpa, unnecessary mundane topics. He tries to avoid, all those things that will take him away from Krishna. Even if he wants to do it. मन में desire आ रहा है करने का, लेकिन वो अपना इंडिपेंडेंस छोड़ देता है. नहीं 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 नहीं, आई एम सर्वेंट बाबा, भगवान देख रहे हैं, मैं नहीं कर सकता ये, आई विल नॉट डू दिस. So even though his independence, his nature is telling him, just do it, enjoy. But still, the devotee controls himself. He doesn't do it. Second, he acts on the order of his master. Third, once the order comes from the Lord, once the instruction comes from Krishna, what does the servant do? Simply discharges the duty faithfully. Right? Srila Prabhupada has mentioned in some places that, I think it's there in the third or fourth canto, I don't remember, that when the servant receives an instruction from the spiritual master, immediately he just says, yes, sir. And there is no question. Like in the army, there is no question of questioning your boss. The boss gives you an order, go to that enemy post and capture it. He doesn't say, अच्छा why me, ये लोग भी तो है, इनको बोलो ना, मेरे को क्यों बोल रहे हो, किसी और को बोलो. He doesn't say. He just, yes sir, right? He just sees that I have been appointed to perform this particular duty by my boss. I must do it. My boss has sustained me, has maintained me for all this time. There is no question of dissent. There's no question of saying no. Yes, sir. He is just so happy and proud of the fact that he has got this opportunity to serve his country, to give up his life for his country. How glorious are these people, right? They are willing to give up their life. What is dearest to us? Our life. Willing to give up their life. Why? Just because the boss has said, the commander has said, go fight. He goes and he fights. Doesn't think, Arey, I have a young, beautiful wife at home. I have a 1-year-old child. My parents are dependent on me. कुछ नहीं सोचता है वो. He goes to perform his duty. And in the course of that duty, if he gets killed, what happens? What happens? The army takes care of that family. So he doesn't need to worry कि मेरे को कुछ हो गया तो मेरी फैमिली तो सब destitute हो जाएगी, सब रास्ते पे आ जाएंगे. No. The army takes care. This is mimicking the nature of the Supreme Lord. Right? So the servant simply discharges duty faithfully, loyally. वो नहीं सोचता है कि मेरे को ये अच्छा नहीं लगा, अरे भगवान ये कैसा सेवा दे दिया आपने, अरे गुरु महाराज, you could have given me any service, why you gave me this one only, why Remuna Prabhu told me to do like this. You will not question, you will just do it. Simply, happily, one will pick up what service has been given to us by our superiors and discharge it faithfully. So this is the third characteristic of the servant. And the fourth one, unaffected by profit or loss. Sukhe dukhe samay kritva labha labho jaya ajayo. So a servant is not affected. He does his duty. In the course of that duty, he may be killed, he may survive, he may he may be very successful, he may be very big failure. He is not bothered. Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. He is not interested in the fruits. He's not attached to fruits. Whether profit or loss, he sees it in the same light. That is a servant. So Prabhupada is saying that, meaning of working under Krishna's protection and working for him, depending on Krishna, is this. If you are a servant, you are in the consciousness of a servant, having no individual independence, then acting on the order of the spiritual master, simply discharges one's duty faithfully and unaffected by profit and loss. These four things you're doing, then you're servant. Otherwise, you're not. Then you are master, and then you're not under the protection of the Lord. You're not. Because when you're under the protection of the Lord, you will follow all instructions. Not that ye kiya, ye nahi kiya. Arey, forget the Supreme Lord, even insurance company, when you take insurance for your car or for your life or for your health or whatever insurance you take, that insurance company gives you certain instructions that you must drive like this, you must not do like this. If you bang your car, do like this. They give you specific instructions. You don't follow that instruction, that whole insurance is null and void. Supreme Lord is not like that. He will still give you protection, even if you have broken some instructions. But then you're not a servant. You're not a proper servant. You're still trying to be master in this material world, right? So we must understand that if we follow the directions of the Supreme Lord Krishna, like Arjuna follows now, very soon we are coming to that verse where Arjuna says, Karishye vachanam tava, my Lord, I will do whatever you tell me. अभी मेरे को कोई शंका नहीं है मेरे मन में, सब क्लियर हो गया, अभी I will fight for you, right? So, you may think sometimes that, अरे, but Krishna का instructions तो अर्जुन को मिला. What about me? I am not in touch with Krishna. I don't know what Krishna has in store for me. I don't know what he has in mind for me. So we have to understand. Prabhupada gives a beautiful reassurance on this also. He says, acting under Krishna directly, like Arjuna acted, or reading Krishna's instructions as given in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita and following that, he says there is no difference. Similarly, if we follow the instructions given by bona fide Guru, that also gives the same result. Why? Because bona fide Guru is not going to speak something independent. He is not having individual independence. He is also acting on the orders of his spiritual master. He is also discharging his duty faithfully, and he is also unaffected by profit or loss. He is also a servant. He is a transparent via media. This knowledge has been coming in parampara all the way from the Supreme Lord Krishna itself. So then, where is the question of any wrong instruction coming from spiritual master? Chakshudan dilojai janme janme prabhu sai. This darkness that we are in, because our eyes are covered, we can only see material things. We are blind to spirituality. That spiritual eyesight to see what is given by Guru. So when we follow the instructions of the Guru, it is equivalent to following instructions of Krishna, because Guru only speaks what the Supreme Lord has spoken. He just repeats the word of the Supreme Lord, right? So no need to worry. Then Prabhupada says, in this verse, there's one very important phrase, mat paraha. He says it indicates that one has no goal in life. One has to have no goal in life, save and except acting in Krishna consciousness just to satisfy Krishna, right? That अपने जीवन का हेतु यही होना चाहिए कि how can I act, in Krishna consciousness, perform the activities of Krishna consciousness. What are those activities? Doing my duty. Whatever Varna and Ashram, we have discussed extensively about Varna and Ashram. Whatever Varna and whatever Ashram you may be in, whatever modes of material nature you may have inherited, mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance, जो भी है अभी वो है, वो शरीर आपको मिला है. आपको वो कर्मा के हिसाब से आपको एक पर्टिकुलर सर्कमस्टेंसेस मिला है. आपको एक जॉब मिला है, आपको एक बिजनेस मिला है, आप बेरोजगार हो, आप हाउसवाइफ हो, आप बिजनेसमैन हो, जो भी हो, राइट? Performing your duties for Krishna, performing the activities of bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, all the activities of bhakti, doing all those activities sincerely. Why? Just to satisfy Krishna. Not for my personal enjoyment. Personal enjoyment means individually independent, right? But we're doing it to satisfy Krishna, that is perfect. He says, and while working in that way, one should think of Krishna only. How? that I have been appointed to discharge this particular duty by whom? Not by my wife, not by my boss, not by my CMD, by Krishna. Krishna has given me this particular duty. Let me do it to the best of my ability, right? Thinking of Krishna. So while acting in such a way, one must naturally think of Krishna. Naturally, you'll end up thinking of Krishna because I'm doing it for him. Prabhupada says, this is perfect Krishna consciousness. यही चाहिए और कुछ भी नहीं चाहिए. You don't need anything, no fancy things, heavy philosophy, being able to quote 108 verses of Bhagavad Gita, 200 verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita. नहीं जरूरी है. आता है तो बहुत बढ़िया. If you are able to quote verses like, like Mother Saraswati has empowered you, wonderful. But it is not essential, not needed. If we are sincerely just doing our duty and performing what instructions our Guru has given us, just following the instructions of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, that's it. This is perfect Krishna consciousness, right? So, take directions from the Lord, take directions from the devotees of the Lord, understand what you have to do, how you have to do, in what consciousness you have to do, and then just do it. Don't just do it. Right? Prabhupada also makes this point. One should note, however, that after doing something whimsically, one should not offer the result to the Supreme Lord. That's not nice. कि मेरे को जो मन में आया मैंने किया, उसके बाद मेरे को थोड़ा पछतावा हुआ एंड उसका जो फ्रूट आया वो मैंने भगवान को ऑफर किया. ए भगवान मैंने बहुत पाप किया, अभी ये लो इसका फ्रूट लो, अभी मेरे को पाप से मुक्त कर दो. That is not nice. Prabhupada is saying one should not do like this, right? Don't act whimsically and then offer the result. Instead, understand what is the right thing to do by studying scriptures, by hearing Krishna Katha, by approaching a tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. Approach, try to approach a spiritual master and serve him, surrender unto him and serve him. Bona fide spiritual master. Mehnat karo to find a proper guru. Don't just pick up the first guru that you find. Search, decide, parak ke dekh lo. You check properly whether this is a proper bona fide spiritual master coming in proper parampara, following instructions of sadhus and shastra, living by the instructions that he is preaching. Satisfy yourself that this is a proper guru. Once you have found that proper guru, full surrender, right? Then don't wait. Don't hold back. Surrender to that spiritual master, take shelter of him, hear from him, understand the directions of the Lord, understand the desire of the Lord. What does Krishna want me to do? Samjho. And then just do it. ये जो just do it is the most misused or abused, phrase in this world. Everyone says just do it. अरे सोचो मत यार, करो. No. सोचो और फिर करो. Look before you leap. Think before you act. Right? So don't whimsically first do something and then offer to the Lord. That is okay, but that is not desirable, right? So if one gets a bona fide spiritual master and acts according to his direction, then one's perfection of life in Krishna consciousness is guaranteed, Srila Prabhupada is saying. Guaranteed. Krishna is saying, Prabhupada is saying, a pure devotee of the Lord who lived this life from his birth to his last moment. Few days back, we celebrated the disappearance day of Srila Prabhupada. Till his last breath, he was engaged in bhakti. For 3 months, practically, he had not eaten any food. There was no food going into his body, only water. That's it. It became bag of bones. He was so thin and emaciated. But still, till his last day, he was translating Shrimad Bhagavatam and he was giving purports. And powerful purports. So this is what we understand is spiritual strength. Physically, strength is gone. Body is finished. Prabhupada said, I'm finished. My body is finished. And this will happen to you also. He told his disciples. ये आपके साथ भी होने वाला है. Don't feel that अरे ये मेरे को नहीं होगा, ये उनको हो गया. ये आपके साथ भी होने वाला है. Body was finished, but spiritual strength was such, he was continuing till the last day. He was preaching, he was translating Shrimad Bhagavatam because he knew how important this service is, Shrimad Bhagavatam. So this is a pure devotee. If one follows such a pure devotee, follows the words and instructions of pure devotee, Prabhupada is saying, if one gets a bona fide spiritual master and acts according to his direction, then one's perfection of life in Krishna consciousness is guaranteed, right? So in text 58, Krishna, he speaks. Let's quickly read that. We're running out of time, so quickly run. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So, in this verse, Srila Prabhupada gives what are the results of following Krishna's instructions, what are the results of not following. So, if we follow Krishna's instructions, Prabhupada says one is not unduly anxious about executing the duties of his existence. वो बहुत ज्यादा टेंशन में नहीं रहते हैं व्यक्ति. डिवोटी वो अपने वंशीधर प्रभु says कृष्ण का दास बिंदास, माया का दास हमेशा उदास, right? So Krishna ka das is bindas. He's not worried. He's just doing his duty to best of his ability. बहुत ज्यादा एंग्जाइटी में नहीं रहता. अरे ये नहीं हुआ, वो नहीं हुआ. अरे मैंने इतना अच्छा से किया, फिर भी रिजल्ट नहीं आया. He doesn't worry because he's doing it for Krishna. Not unduly anxious. He is free to act as everything is being directed by Krishna from within and confirmed by Guru from without. So उसको माइंड में टेंशन नहीं रहता. अरे मैं क्या करूं? Should I do this? Should I do that? ये सही है कि वो सही है? उसके माइंड में कोई डाउट नहीं. Devotee is very clear. He may not have the spiritual strength to do the right thing, or he may be lacking spiritual strength to not do the wrong thing. ऐसा हो सकता है, लेकिन उसको पता है. He knows what is the right thing, what is the wrong thing, and he is able to act mostly doing the right thing. He is able to, for one who is following the instructions of the Lord, he is able to pass over all obstacles of conditioned life by the grace of the Lord, right? Krishna says that yoga kshemam vahamyaham, that I will protect you, don't worry, I will carry what you lack and I will provide what you lack. I will carry what you have and I will provide what you lack. I will give you everything, don't worry. Krishna is taking care. Then Krishna becomes his friend. He gives himself to a person who is 24 hours dedicated to please the Lord. So for a person whose life is fully revolving around Krishna, all his activities are only meant to please Krishna, such a person, the Lord becomes indebted. He doesn't know what to do. In the Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna tells the gopis that what you have done, there is no way I can repay you. I can't repay you. I am so indebted, I simply cannot repay your surrender. So you just be satisfied by your service only. Because मैं आपको कुछ दे नहीं सकता. Like Sudama, when he came, Krishna didn't know how to repay him. Therefore, he didn't give him anything. He said, "Tum jao." He didn't say, after he went, then he gave him something. The Lord becomes so indebted by the love of his devotees, right? So passes over all obstacles of conditioned life by his grace. Krishna becomes his friend. He gives himself to open. That's why bhakti is so rare. See, if you go to Krishna and say, Dhanam Dehi, Vidya Dehi, wife Dehi, he will give you. He will give you Vidya, he'll give you wife, he'll give you Dhanam, he'll give you Putram, he'll give you everything, whatever you want. Right? But if he says, you go to Krishna and say, I want you, then Krishna becomes very, very. Like if a beggar comes to you, and he says, ki, are, 2 रुपया दे दो, 10 रुपया दे दो, 5 रुपया दे दो, take it. You feel merciful, little compassionate, take it. Right? Now if he comes and says, कि आप मेरे बन जाओ, मुझे आप चाहिए, मुझे आपका पैसा वैसा नहीं चाहिए, मुझे आप चाहिए, then what will you do? अरे नहीं. Sorry, why should I give myself to you? Please explain. And that person has no logical explanation. You will not go, no, obviously. In the same way, Krishna Bhakti is such a rare thing that if one performs bhakti with all sincerity like this, 24 hours dedicated to please the Lord, then Krishna becomes purchased by such a person. Therefore, bhakti is so rare, because then Krishna becomes the servant of that devotee. He is willing to do whatever the devotee says. He will, whatever desire that devotee expresses, Krishna is just forced to fulfill it. He has no choice, right? And we have seen this. Prabhupada just expressed to Shyam Sundar Prabhu sometime in the 1970s. Standing outside Bharati Vidya Bhavan, he pointed his cane in the direction of where Radha Gopinath temple stands today and said, there should be a nice temple here. We should have a nice temple here. That's it. Some 10, 12 years later, Radha Gopinath temple manifested in that same spot. So Prabhupada, is a pure devotee and he had fully 100% surrendered to Krishna. Krishna cannot say no. So one who is following, Krishna becomes his friend, gives himself. Such a person is liberated, free from material perplexities. दुनिया का perplexities, ये ऐसा क्यों है, ये वैसा क्यों है, ये दुनिया में ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है, वैसा क्यों, वो सब से वो परे हो जाता है. He is liberated from all these anxieties and perplexities. And for one who's not following, Prabhupada uses very nice, chooses his words. He says, such a person doesn't understand what is freedom from anxiety. ये हरे कृष्णा वाले इतने बिंदास क्यों रहते हैं, हमेशा हंसते क्यों रहते हैं? Why they are always smiling? Why they are always looking so blissful? What is it about them? इनको एंजाइटी नहीं आता है क्या? इनको टेंशन नहीं आता है, अरे टारगेट नहीं हुआ है, अरे ये नहीं हुआ है, अपना शेयर प्राइस गिर रहा है, अरे यार इनको कोई फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता है. They're just doing their duty very blissfully. They don't understand. He is losing himself in the material whirlpool, in the ocean of birth and death. He doesn't know what is to be done, what is not to be done. See, a person who is not connected with the knowledge of the Gita, उसे क्या पता है कि क्या सही है, क्या गलत है? वो सिर्फ अपने senses के हिसाब से काम करता है. From what his senses dictate, from what his mind dictates, he works accordingly. Because he has long lost that sense of character. He has long lost that sense of what is right and wrong. Might is right. मेरे पास शक्ति है तो मैं I will dominate the world. I will dominate the situation. I'll be the king of this situation. I'll be the master of this situation. Doesn't know what is to be done, what is not to be done. So then in verse 59, so in 56, 57 and 58, Srila Prabhupada has given beautiful purports. I humbly request all of you to kindly take shelter, read these purports very beautifully. Srila Prabhupada has explained this process of bhakti, right? And now in 59 and 60, what does Krishna mean? Like in 58, he has said that if, however, you do not work in such consciousness, meaning Krishna consciousness, you don't act in that Krishna consciousness, act through your false ego, meaning मैं जो चाहूं मैं करूंगा, that is false ego, right? If you act in false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So what does Krishna mean that one acting through false ego, not hearing him, will be lost? So Prabhupada explains that the essence of these two verses 59 and 60 is that your duty is to fight. It is your duty as a Kshatriya. You have to fight for the side of dharma. And then Krishna says, even if you try to abandon this duty, the modes will force you to do it. Meaning, because you are a Kshatriya, you are in the mode of passion and goodness. These modes will act upon you and you will anyway end up fighting the war. आज नहीं तो कल तुम लड़ने ही वाले हो, क्षत्रिय हो, तुम्हारा नेचर है लड़ना, तुम लड़ोगे. You cannot sit and accept insults coming continuously from unfair insults coming from somebody. You cannot tolerate it. It's your nature. You will anyway end up fighting. So our acharyas explain that after 18 chapters, 18 चैप्टर हो गए, इतनी बार कृष्णा ने अर्जुन को बोला है, get up and fight, get up and fight, stand up and fight, stand up and fight. If you fight, you will, if you die, you will go to the heavenly planets. If you if you survive, you will win the kingdom. इतना बार fight करने को बोला है. Now Krishna is saying that anyway you will fight. तो इसका क्या मतलब है? What is the meaning of this? So the acharyas explain that, you know, it is the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita, not just to explain to Arjuna that you have to fight or you will anyway end up fighting. It is about in what consciousness must one fight. This whole conversation of Bhagavad Gita is about consciousness, about Krishna consciousness, about coming into that consciousness that I am not the master. I am the servant. I have to act as per the instructions of the master. The master, the supreme Lord Krishna, is telling me to fight. So I must fight. Whether I like it or I don't like it. Whether I'm comfortable, I'm not comfortable. Whether I think I am capable or not capable. Whether I think this is sinful or not sinful. The supreme Lord is telling me to fight. I have to fight. Just for the pleasure of the Lord. Even if I'm not pleased by this activity, because the Lord wants it, I will do it. Whole Bhagavad Gita is to bring us to this point. Because otherwise, Arjuna would have anyway fought. That's what Krishna is saying here. Right? The modes will force you to do it. Your modes of a Kshatriya will force you to fight. So, he says, Prabhupada says that if one refuses to fight under the direction of the Supreme Lord, then he is compelled to act by the modes in which he is situated. Everyone is, look at the words Prabhupada uses, everyone is under the spell of a particular combination of the modes of nature and is acting in that way. Spell, mesmerized by mode of goodness, mesmerized by mode of passion, mesmerized by mode of ignorance. जो व्यक्ति को सोना पसंद है, like सोना means not gold, sleeping वाला सोना, one who likes to sleep, आप उसको कितना भी incentive दो, वो सोएगा. Under the spell, जादू टोना, छू मंतर, that छू मंतर has been done by that modes of nature and he's acting in that way. If we choose to not surrender to Krishna, मतलब मेरे को नहीं करना है बाबा surrender, मुझे नहीं करना है भगवान को surrender. Even if we choose not to surrender to Krishna, doesn't mean that we will be independent. We are still under the control of who? Of Maya. Material nature will be controlling us like puppets. Our strings will be pulled by Maya. What powerful words. Acharya has explained, don't think you are independent. Maya is controlling you. She is laughing at your activities. आपको देख के वो हंस रही है कि बाबा तुम क्या अपने आप को बड़े 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 गुरु समझते हो, बड़े ग्रेट व्यक्ति समझते हो. Look at this. One, like Vishwamitra, one tinkling of Menaka's anklets and he forgot all his tapasya of 60,000 years. 1 second is all it takes for Maya to completely bewilder us. 1 second, right? So don't be proud. Don't be proud. Don't think you're anything great. We are controlled at all times. So you are anyway surrendering to Maya. So why not turn your head away from Maya and turn towards Krishna? Right? So everyone will anyway be controlled, but one who voluntarily engages himself under the direction of the Supreme Lord or his empowered servants, who voluntarily engages himself under the direction of the Supreme Lord in devotional service, such a person becomes glorious, gets the protection of the Lord, receives the mercy of the Lord all through his life, and at the end of this life goes back to Godhead, to Krishna Loka, where the Supreme Lord resides for eternal life in blissful service. And it is what we do in this life which will get us to there. The choices that we make in this life, the decisions that we make to stubbornly stay independent, to stubbornly engage in sense gratification, unwilling to fully surrender to the holy name, these are the decisions that cause our future. Make the right decisions, Surrender to Krishna, and Krishna himself is assuring us, I will take you back to Godhead. Wonderful assurance given by the Supreme Lord. We should have full faith in that, that if one acts like this, one will go to Godhead. If one doesn't act like this, one will stay in this material world. We have to decide what we want to do. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. So any questions or comments anybody has? You can take one or two questions. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? I muted everybody. I don't know. Yeah.
Prabhuji, it was wonderful to listen to you with so much of conviction and so much of love. You have spoken so beautifully today. I just have one small, you said that, you have to search for your spiritual master. How to go about that, see in this kind of life that we live, even if you're practicing some devotional service, what is the best way to find your spiritual master or discover?
So Prabhuji, it's like this. See, in ISKCON for us it is relatively easy. Okay, those of easy means not to get diksha, but to find a spiritual master is relatively easy. There are many, for those who are connected in ISKCON, there are many initiating spiritual masters who are direct disciples of Srila Prabhupada, who have been specifically given this service of accepting disciples by the GBC. They're not self-appointed gurus. Ki my guru, my follow kar raha hai to my guru. No, they're appointed as gurus by the GBC of ISKCON. So what we do is, we typically we get inspired by listening to these sannyasis, right? There are a few grihasthas also who are acting as gurus. So we see practically where I am living, which city I am living, or which devotees I am connected with, or in the area where I live, who is the GBC, there. Or sometimes it is, I am inspired by hearing lectures of so and so sannyasi. So therefore, then I take shelter of that sannyasi. So it could be anything. It could be the region where you're staying. It could be the devotees you are associating with. It could be the particular initiating guru whom you have heard from or served directly, or it could be the lectures who किसी का lecture सुन लिया आपने ISKCON Desire Tree में, you're greatly inspired. So it could be anything. By exposing ourselves to these devotees, by listening to their katha, by hearing their lectures, we will be, automatically in our heart at some point we will be attracted to one person. One particular person will attract our heart. If we are sincere in our heart that I want a guru, right, then the Lord will inspire you to take shelter of a particular guru. We have to have faith in that. That's how the process works. Just have faith and have patience. The Lord will guide you to your guru. But the first step has to come from you, that mujhe guru chahiye. I want a guru. You have to understand that without guru, we cannot perfect our lives spiritually. It's not possible. We need a guru. I don't know. Did I answer your question, Prabhuji?
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments, or shall we end here? All right. So if there's no further questions or comments, I'll pass over to our Brahme Prabhu for the announcements. Hare Krishna.